we all talk about it. We read about it through the United Nations. We read about it across, every blog on LinkedIn or, Woody Harrelson or, whoever wants to talk about these things, right? The soil is being depleted, and by the soil depletion that's happening, our own quality of life and existence as humans is also being depleted. That careening headlong off a cliff into that soil depletion doesn't have to be that way. And by understanding the 10 fundamentals of nature, you understand why the depletion is happening, how to reverse it, and how to track it in real time, how much is actually happening from reading sap tests. Because if you have high levels of sugar in the plant, you're going to have high levels of sugar put down in the root environment. If you have high levels of sugars being put in the root environment, you're going to have carbon cycling and active microbiology. If you have that, you're going to build soil, not deplete soil, right? So if you have low levels of sugars, you're going to be extracting soil from the soil profile to the point where you can't extract anymore. Once that soil has been completely extracted, and that's when the plants start to go even further out of balance, right? And so it works both ways. It's really cool. This is the beauty that the 10 fundamentals have showed us here at Apical, how we can rebuild soils, how we can utilize and track these in real time for the overall benefit of our crops, our customers, our bioregions, countries, world, etc. Right? So now we understand that when these soils are being depleted in different regions, they're not being depleted from some magical, process that's happened. Okay, yeah, there's things certainly do happen, with soil depletion related to chemical spills or, other things like that. But ultimately, it's our ability to not communicate with nature, or our inability to communicate with nature, that's driving this soil depletion. So by studying, thousands of leaf analysis, we've unpacked, step by step, like I just illustrated here, step by step 1 through 10, that shows you why that's happening. So, why soil depletion is happening, how it can be fixed, and how you can utilize our leaf analysis to track that in real time and begin to make change in whatever situation you're in, whether it's a backyard gardener, as a, multi-thousand acre agronomist, farm owner, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, as your plants create sugars in the upper portion of a leaf analysis that's monitoring it, right? The higher that sugar is, the higher, the more rapidly you're building soil organic matter. The lower that sugar is, the faster you're depleting soil. You'll find, if you go back and look at any of the SAP tests that you've ever done with us or maybe other companies, you'll find that when you look at poor sugar translocation, there's going to be imbalance within that plant. You'll find when there's poor sugar development in the crops, you'll find that there's deficiencies of key nutrients and overabundance of unwanted nutrients. Unwanted nutrients being, aluminum and sodium being the key ones, as they've never really been diagnosed to have any necessary function. Now there's some small ancillary benefits, but those two. But ultimately, every nutrient can become an excess. We've probably seen over the years every single nutrient become excessive to 3 to 5 times on either a soil or a leaf test, whether it's potassium or even calcium or, iron or manganese or boron. We've seen them all, right? And this is what happens. They all obey the 10 principles of nature, all the elements, all the plants, all the species. There's some very key, small exceptions to the rule during growth stages of plants where they're hyperaccumulating into a spur leaf in order to feed a fruit bud. But generally speaking, almost all the time, the plants are growing, they're obeying these 10 principles of nature. And so by understanding them, by understanding how those flow through data, and incorporating that into your conceptual understanding of how to read leaf analysis, this is how you can reverse soil depletion, encourage your crop development, and really take the next step forward in your agronomy, in your crop improvement, in your farm. So there's a number of different analysis that we've looked at over the years where we find these imbalances. And I'm just going to show you a few here, you know, where the imbalances are showing up, right? And when we start to compare, new leaf to old leaf or treated to untreated. So in this situation, this is a canola crop. We're looking at massive differences in total nitrogen from the untreated to the treated and the corresponding differential within the health of the plant. Similarly, you're seeing large differences in the uptake of aluminum in the monocrop versus a mixed crop. Taking a look at another analysis, here's one of peas, where there's a significant imbalance of chloride, potassium, and aluminum in the old leaf, and that hyperaccumulation is showing itself in the old leaf difference. So if you look here where the potassium is highlighted, the chloride is highlighted, and the aluminum is highlighted at much higher levels in the monocrop versus looking at blackberries fertilized versus unfertilized. This actually illustrates a really good example of phosphorus levels. So you've got your fertilized phosphorus levels at hovering around 500 versus your unfertilized blackberries at significantly more. Great example of plants thriving on low levels of nutrients delivered by microbes. Here's a hazelnut orchard that has a significant amount of aluminum stress in blighted hazelnuts versus non-blighted hazelnuts. Additionally, there's upregulation of ammonium rather, in the blighted section to a pretty large degree, as well as a significantly lower number of phosphorus in the blighted section as well. Looking at some blueberries with a sulfur excess, as well as a manganese excess and a potassium excess, and manifesting in the nourishing of a disease. So those are a few examples. I'd encourage you guys to look through your old sap tests if you haven't already. Carbon is king. Thanks again very much, and look forward to seeing you all next week. Take care.